So, welcome to our talk about menopause. And I put in the title Too Cool for Menopause School, partly because all the kids have just started back at school. And I thought, okay, what's the school for menopause? But I just thought I'd introduce myself, and then my lovely colleague Fiona will introduce herself as well. For those of you that don't know us, I'm Caroline Gaskin, and I've been working in natural health for 25 years, and that feels quite incredible. And a lot of that time I focused on women's health, and more recently, probably in the last 10 years since my own menopause experience, I have focused on menopause more specifically because so much comes into this time in our lives when perhaps something that's been around for quite some time for us and hasn't really shouted loud enough starts to shout loudly. So for me, going through menopause, it was my thyroid, and really it had been trying to talk to me for years and tell me that it needed a bit of support. And so what we're going to talk about today is the main things that we see in our practice that are really helpful through menopause, and why. And just going to let someone else in. So yeah, what else can I say about myself? I keep getting called back to menopause. I keep thinking, oh, maybe I don't need to be saying all this. And then something will remind me or call me back. And I'll be like, oh gosh, there's still a lot of work to do. And a lot of that is because we're very challenged in the 20th and 21st century by environmental factors. So these also really feed into menopause. And it could be that we've had a weakness or a deficiency going on for some time that, as I said, begins to shout louder. And it might be that you have something in your family history that you're worried about. And I'm thinking here about things like osteopenia, osteoporosis, problems with the bones, that you're conscious could be an issue for you. And so there are lots of things that we can do now. And even if you're listening and you're in pre-menopause, there's lots that you can do to prepare. And I would love to be in a place of education where I am educating women before menopause, because I didn't know about all these things that we're going to share today and that we share on our course. So Fiona and I run the natural menopause course together, and we've been focusing on that and improving that as we go along, in response to what women have said about the course, which has been very complimentary, very good, very lovely space. But like anything, it's a constant kind of tweak and adjustment and improving. So and a lot of things happen along the way. So we keep discovering new things. New studies are actually being done in menopause as well, and that's really helpful because it felt like 10 years ago when things were, when I went through menopause, my period stopped, but obviously it was a process before that of things changing, and there just wasn't information. It wasn't even called perimenopause when it first started out for me. So yeah, over to you, Fiona.
Thanks. Yeah, so for those of you that don't know me, my name is Fiona Eady. And as Caroline said, we work together on the natural menopause course. And the focus of that really being to give women, offer up natural alternatives at a time when the loudest voices that we seem to get all the time in the media and perhaps from our friends as well are really shouting out for HRT. And both Caroline and I, through our practices, know that there's loads of other fantastic ways for you to manage menopause symptoms. So I work across nutrition and homeopathy. Absolutely love what I do. And I am now through my 1 year menopause transition. And yeah, definitely second what Caroline was saying about it would be amazing to have known well in advance how to best prepare myself for that state. And what I really noticed in menopause was this fact that the body really shines a light on what you haven't dealt with so far, what you've pushed to one side and thought, oh, just keep going, I don't need to deal with that. But you've known there's something there. And for me, it was really my adrenal glands. And I did a talk a couple of weeks ago that was all about adrenals, which was really, a lot of it was rooted in my experience, as well as my clients' experience. And adrenal glands throw up all kinds of menopause symptoms, but they particularly tie into anxiety. So one of the things that we really see in the course as well is women's anxiety start to drop away after a couple of weeks. And really, anxiety, you know, we all knew that irritability and hot flushes were part of our parents' menopause, our mother's menopause, but how many of us really knew that anxiety was in there as a picture? So there's so much, I think, that's happening in the modern world around about, toxins and chemical exposure. But there's also an awful lot about how we've been living our lives that comes up at menopause. There's an amazing opportunity to heal, or, you know, we can turn away from it. But it really is an amazing opportunity to heal and be well for the rest of our lives as well. So yeah, tonight we're going to share 3 things each. Well, I'm actually only going to do 2, I think, that we really find are impactful at menopause. So there's so much stuff. You know, my Instagram is just jammed, because I'm always, you know, talking about menopause on there. It's just jammed with like the latest supplement that's going to do absolute wonders. Take this one thing and you're going to be totally fine. Do this course and you're going to be absolutely brilliant. And there's so much of this push I find from people will ask me, you know, what is this one magic thing I can do? And that's really difficult because we are all individuals. But there are a few fantastic things that I think apply to most women. And I think that's what we're going to try and hit on tonight, share some top tips for you all. Some of them you may have heard before, and some of them might be new, and some of them may be reminders as well, which is really useful, because I think we can all tend to forget and need a bit of a boost from time to time. So, Caroline,
Totally.
yeah. So if I was going to
I
ask
got asked exactly this question 3 times in the last 2 weeks. One was online in my menopause group, and one was just someone that I was talking to, looking at flowers in Australia. And she said, "So what is the one thing that you need to take at menopause?" And I was like, wow, there is no one thing, but there are certain things that I could say we all need. And I absolutely echo what Fiona said about the charge that our adrenals are going through. And my thyroid only got knackered at menopause because my adrenals had been whirring away, keeping me busy, uplifted, overextended for a very long time.
Yeah. So do you want to kick off with your first?
Yeah. So my number one thing that I would say that all women at menopause, and in fact, many of my clients actually need, is more magnesium in our lives. And the benefits of magnesium are many. So it supports all sorts of enzymatic actions in the body over all the different body systems. So if someone had hypertension, for instance, high blood pressure, which is not necessarily a menopausal symptom, but may show up at menopause. It's not a primary symptom of menopause, but it may flag up for women. As to other heart and circulatory issues, then I would be saying add in magnesium. When we talk about longevity, really we want to be adding back in magnesium, because it's going to help us draw up calcium, potassium, and phosphorus to maintain and keep strong bones. So for me, magnesium worked because it reduced irritability and feeling nauseous. So I'm talking about some very varied symptoms here, and how beneficial magnesium can be, because it's like a beautiful mineral, the number one mineral for us that allows us to draw up other minerals. It helps balance our blood sugar. One of the things that happens when the very early perimenopause, for the vast majority of women, is that their blood sugar becomes imbalanced. And that is one of the things that gives rise to anxiety. So for me, surges of anxiety were hugely helped by getting magnesium into my life. And so we could say, well, why are we so deficient in magnesium? Because it is easily depleted. like a couple of the vitamins, it needs to be added into our lives on a regular basis. So the things that deplete it are excess sugar, um, tea, coffee, alcohol, all the bigs that we readily reach for in the West, processed foods, stress, excess sweating. So you can see as we move into the second phase of menopause, or what we might call late perimenopause, and we do start to do hot flushes, that we need magnesium to put back in. It also soothes and relaxes us. So it helps muscles actually relax, and it soothes the nervous system. So it can be great if you can't get to sleep. You might take magnesium in the evening in some form. So I'm not going to go into all the ways in which you can get magnesium into your life, but it's so fundamental. And it's very, very rare that I see a menopausal woman or a premenopausal woman who doesn't need magnesium in her life in some shape or form. So one of the things that we do on the course is we show you how to get magnesium into your life on a regular basis. And I've just traveled back from Australia. I'm probably feeling a bit jet lagged. I'm going to run a bath as soon as I finish this and put some Epsom salts in it to have a nice, relaxing magnesium bath. That's magnesium sulfate. So that's a way in which we can take magnesium into our lives. We can do that dermally. So it's fundamental, and I would say the statistic is 80% of people need magnesium. I would say it's it's pushing up to 100% in menopause. So that's my number one. How about you, Fiona? What would you have
Um,
on your list?
well, I totally, agree with you on magnesium. I think so many of us are deficient, and it's just fantastic. You can feel the results straight away. So my thing is, so it's free, everybody can do it, and it doesn't really involve that much effort. But I think it's something that we're all increasingly out of touch with. So my two things are gonna be the flip side of circadian rhythm. So um, I'm pretty sure everybody knows what circadian rhythm is. It's our inner body clock, and it's the way that our body knows what to do. It knows which hormones to release, which metabolic processes to kick in, and it keeps us totally ticking away, and it keeps us really healthy. And we know that when people's circadian rhythms are out of whack, it has really big impacts on the health system. For example, people who work at night are often very unwell. But it has an effect on our health, and particularly on our hormones, and particularly our menopause. So for me, it's one of the, like, most effective, and everybody can do it, hacks that we've got. So in the mornings, what happens is before we wake up, before we open our eyes, there's been a surge of our cortisol, and it tells us it's time to wake up and get out of bed. Now, evolutionary wise, that's now the time when we would leave our house, cave, shelter, whatever, and go outside, probably do some foraging, check the weather, get going with the day. And of course, in the modern world, in that first sort of hour of waking, what can happen is we can go and get in a car. We can be working from home and stay in. And we can just start doing, like stuff around the house. But very often in the modern world, we're not out within the first hour of waking. So when we do get out into the first hour of waking, what happens? We hit natural sunlight, and natural sunlight is very different from internal sunlight. So if you're getting up and you're in the house and you've got lovely big windows and your house is flooded with light, that's nice, but that isn't doing the job on circadian rhythm that it needs to do. So inside your house, the light is measured in terms of units called lux. Inside, your lux can be 100 units, 100 lux, or inside an office with brighter lights, it can be 100 to 200. Outside, it can be 100,000 lux. So if you're on a sunny day and you step out that morning, you're going to get 100,000 lux. The difference is absolutely incomparable. On the greyest winter morning, it's going to be 1,000 outside. So it's 10 times more. So for those of you that haven't got a garden, you know, you can still sit next to an open window. You can, if you've got a balcony, you can get outside, wrap up warm, have a coffee. And the amount of time that it's ideal to sit outside is 10 to 30 minutes for you to be outside. 10 to 30 minutes is fine. If you've got longer than that, then that's perfect. But 10 minutes having your morning drink for me is really an absolute doable. And what happens is our eyes, we absorb those photons and it starts kicking in a load of chemical processes in our body. And one of the main things that it does is it tells our body to dump that morning waking cortisol, to dump it so that our cortisol can then just drift lovely in a lovely, calm, held, contented way all the way through down to nighttime. And if we don't dump it in the morning because there hasn't been decent exposure to outdoor light, then we've got loads of cortisol at night and we've got loads of cortisol all day. And all day, cortisol leaves us in a state of hypervigilance. It leaves us feeling very stressed because it's a stress buffer. And it's also suppressing serotonin. So serotonin is our feel-good hormone. Serotonin makes us feel contented. It makes us feel willing to enter into relationships with people and have eye contact. It makes us able to feel joy. So morning sunlight helps us dump our cortisol and it helps us to produce serotonin. So it's got those double wins to it. So yeah, what we need to do, get outside somewhere between 6 to 9 p.m., 10 to 30 minutes, face the sun. So, because in winter, we're really going to want to soak up as much as we can. You don't look straight at it, particularly if it's a bright sun, but you want to be facing towards that horizon. And then that is going to set your brain. There's a particular part of the brain, the hypothalamus. There's a part of that that is the brain's clock, and it's the master clock of the entire body. And you're going to set that master clock really nicely. And anyone who's talked about stress, you might have heard of the HPA axis, the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. So if you set this hypothalamus part of it, that whole system, the stress system, the fight and flight system, is calmed and it knows what it's doing. So what we're looking at menopause is if we don't drop that morning stress, that morning cortisol, and we have more cortisol, then what does that feel like? Lots of cortisol going around the body all day feels like brain fog. It feels like irritability. It feels like hot flushes. It feels like fatigue. It's got the whole gamut of menopause symptoms in there, and there's a complete lack of joy with it as well. So this for me is like, it's something that I do it all seasons, all weather, and I personally have found that it makes a big difference to the rest of my day, actual tangible difference to menopause symptoms as well. And as a result, one of the things I never do now is wear sunglasses, and I just try and I live in a flat, a London flat, but I'm just, aware that I need to even do my yoga next to the open door, for example. So yeah, that's my number one, easy, free, anyone can do it. It makes a huge difference tip. And that's that one.
I'm going to add to that something that you can do at the end of the day, which again is actually, I think, a low cost option. And that is to take an evening drink of sour cherry juice. So you can get a concentrate. This one's a concentrate, or you can buy it from a company like Biona and have a little glass of it before you go to bed. So obviously the concentrate you mix with water. And that is sour cherry juice enhances your natural melatonin. So you've got that light at the beginning of the day, which will help your body kick into producing melatonin by the end of the day. I also recommend getting out after lunch and getting some light as well. And then by the end of the day, that sour cherry juice, we've had, I think, 3 women this week say how much they've loved the sour cherry juice that we recommend on the course. And that they're finding it's really relaxing in the evening and really helping them get a better night's sleep. So short and sweet, sour cherry juice will also, studies show, help with joint pain. There is evidence that it actually helps with reducing tumors, but it's hard to make claims about things like that. But there is some evidence. of that. But fantastic antioxidant, very potent antioxidant. But it also is specific to help you increase your melatonin. Now, another reason why melatonin is so depleted is not just because we spend a lot of time indoors and we don't see that natural light, and we don't perhaps have the right microbiome element, the precursors to making melatonin naturally, which is what the sour cherry juice feeds the microbiome. So you've got better gut bacteria to take you into producing melatonin. But if we don't eat organic food, chances are that we're picking up on something called glyphosate. And you may well have read about that. Glyphosate in our food chain interferes with the body's capacity to take up a very important amino acid called glycine. Now, glycine cycles through the pineal gland. So if that glyphosate is mimicking the glycine, it's disrupting the pineal gland's action to produce that melatonin that allows you to have deep, restful, restorative sleep. So a little bit of sour cherry juice at bedtime. Try it for at least 2 weeks, and see how you get on with that if sleep's an issue and if anxiety is an issue. And it also, as a boost, it also enhances serotonin. So there's a win-win factor with that. And I have a friend who suffers depression at menopause, and she takes the sour cherry juice in the morning. Need to ask her whether she also gets out. um, so over to you, Fiona, for a bit more on light, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, but it
Yeah.
also directly, I'm actually going to directly talk about melatonin as well. So that was a very lovely segue into melatonin.
Mm.
So yeah, this is the flip side of the morning sunlight, and I'm going to talk a bit about evening light. And I don't know if you can see, but I'm in quite a yellow light at the moment. I've got a kind of warm glow around me, and that is a deliberate lighting choice, which I'm going to talk a little bit about. So as I said, in the morning, we need that blue light. We need lots of lux to get us going, dump our cortisol, and start coming down into the evening. And when we come into the evening, I'm sure everybody's heard about blue light, and we think a bit about our screens. So what happens is, in the evening, from sunset onwards, in an evolutionary perspective, that's when the blue light goes, and there's much more ready sunlight. There's a much more there's a different color spectrum of light from sunset onwards. And so that tells our bodies that it's now time to start producing melatonin for sleep. And that process has been, you know, going on for since evolutionary times. So what's happened though today and in the modern world is that we have a lot of artificial lighting. So we have, particularly since 2010 was when the EU did a big push over into LED lighting. And I think they even made it's, when the UK is not in the EU anymore. So, but we also got incandescent, those old light bulbs, which have the kind of filament inside them. Those were all removed from sale and replaced with lower energy LED lighting. And LED lighting is interesting because it's very high intensity and it has a lot of blue in it. It really dials up that blue light from that I talked about being in the morning. And it also has a very high flicker rate that we can't see, but you can go onto YouTube and look at a slow motion video of what a room looks like with an LED light in it. So it's kind of strobing in the background. And what is incredibly interesting, that has just been a piece of research that actually came out last week in a neuroscience journal. And it was a study by a team who look at the effects of the moon on reproductive systems, because humans, in common with animals, determine their reproduction round about what the moon's doing. And so this team have already done a study before, and this was a new one where they were tracking women's menstrual cycles going back quite considerably amount of time. And they found that it is actually true. There is a lot of data that shows that women's cycles do indeed sync with the moon. And that is because the moon gives out different amounts of light. It gives out different amounts of lux depending how near or far it is from the Earth's surface. and whether it's full or whether it's a new moon. So, and we as women are able to be incredibly sensory to that. We're very sensitive to it, and it actually affects our sex hormone balance because it affects our melatonin, and melatonin is linked to our sex hormones. So that's the first link. But what they found in this study was not just that there's very good data that the moon syncs with periods, which I think many of us will have heard, but that since 2010, this correlation has virtually been extinguished, no longer exists. And that the people least likely to have any synchronicity for the moon were those living in cities and in higher, denser industrial areas. And that simply their correlation is that this is because there is more street lighting in those areas. So we're blocked from our natural input from the moon around what should be happening in our cycles. And what they saw was that women were having more periods since 2010. So with this tracking thing, so there was no extrapolation in the study about what that means for menopause. But what does it mean? It means that one, we need to be very careful about our exposure to blue light, probably more than we thought. The other thing that happened in 2010 was blue lit was the start of LED smartphones with blue lighting in the background. That was the real explosion of those. So we have the street lights, we have car lights, we have the lights in our home, the lights in our office, and all our screens move to this very strong LED lighting. Now, if you're sleeping in a bedroom with a street light shining in, or with even an alarm clock in your room, that is enough to disrupt your melatonin levels and to impair your sleep. And when you disrupt your melatonin levels and you impair your sleep, then you're looking at hot flashes, you're looking at irritability, you're looking at lack of sleep. But even if your sleep isn't impaired, there is a definite effect on your sex hormone levels. And at menopause, we're very sensitive to those. We need our sex hormones to be working really well and being produced really nicely. And melatonin is absolutely key. So Caroline's sour cherry juice that's ramping up your melatonin at a time when it's being depleted is really important. And they know from studies that blue lights can instantly remove about 50% of your melatonin, just an average amount of blue light in a home. So we're really working against a system that's like all around us. So there are some really easy things you can do. You can look at nighttime settings on all your screens. When I walk the dog at night, I wear a pair of really cheap, they're really cheap, blue light specs, just because I've started to be aware of how strong streetlights are and that I can't sleep if I go on an hour's dog walk around dark streets with streetlights on. That has a direct effect on me. So yeah, I just think this is a really interesting study. And for us at menopause, we want to sleep well. We want to have our bodies following this lovely process at night. And we just need to keep our rooms very dark. And I think, you know, if it's sunset tonight, it was at 6:30 in London. So starting to dim the lights, candle lights, beautiful, and using a more subtle toned light bulb is really important as well. So that is my second, almost because you can just change your screen settings, you know, like, but really something to be really aware of our impacts at menopause of blue lights.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fascinating, like I said earlier, you know, that we are finally getting more studies coming out and really kind of sinking in why menopause is so complex now and why we need to understand that it's more than just taking one supplement. That said, I am going to mention another. When you've got the word essential in something, it's not really a supplement. It's essential to our diet. So I'm going to mention essential fatty acids. And these are something that we may or may not have heard of. We might have heard of them as omega oils. And they come, there are many, many different types of essential fatty acids or omegas. And there are some that we absorb easier than others. And there are some that we need more of than others. So we need to get the balance right between what are called omegas 3, 6, 7, and 9. And again, I'm not going to go into these too much, but they support all of the different systems in our body. So if we had heart and circulatory symptoms, as I said earlier, we would be looking at essential fatty acids. If we had brain fog, we would be looking at essential fatty acids. The brain thrives on fats, and we've demonized fats historically. We've kind of wiped them out of food. Many women at menopause might find that their cholesterol raises in order to perhaps make more hormones. And so often I would be adding back in good quality fats, essential fatty acids, to help to create balance in the body. Might also add some homeopathic remedies, might add some other supplements in if that was an issue. But most women that come in need to get fats right in their life. And fats are they're a fundamental element in the food chain. So if we don't have those, our body's going to be hunting for those. If weight gain, for instance, is an issue, we need to look at how we take fats in and how we metabolize them, how efficient we are at that. So that would be my third thing to add in. It might be that we get specific with an essential fatty acid because we have something like vaginal dryness, and we reach for something like sea buckthorn, which is specific and very rich in omega-7, for instance. So we need to get the balance right, and the vast majority of people need to reduce the omega-6s because it's very easy to have too many of those, given their diet with seed oils, very processed seed oils, for instance. I've just been in West Australia where there are fields and fields and fields of canola, which is one of the worst because it's very heavy with the omega-6s. So we need to get the balance right, but we often simply need more fats in our diet. So those are my three in the big six. And I just wanted to ask a couple of or share a couple of questions that have come in for you, Fiona. Maria says, Fiona, I have myopia, short-sightedness, and wear glasses. Do you recommend taking them off when outside in the morning?
So I definitely yes. Your glasses are screening out the lux. They're preventing the actual light
Yeah.
photons from hitting your eyes, from hitting your face, from getting absorbed by the body. So yes, I mean, obviously do it at your discretion, but ideally when you're turning to face the sun for those 10 minutes in that direction, you really want to be absorbing as much as you can. And getting
Yeah.
more skin out is absolutely great, but it's temperature dependent. I have to admit, at winter there's very little of me exposed, but yeah, that's so definitely.
And I also want to add in that contact lenses are just as bad. So, so contact lenses, I tend not to put. I do wear lenses. I tend not to put them in until about 11 or 12. I don't have super strong myopia. Have a little bit, and I've got astigmatism. You can also. I'm just going to throw this in. Do eye exercises. So Bates eye exercises are very good, very old fashioned. If you've got long sight, if your vision is lengthening, so you see things further away clearer and you're having problems reading, you can actually correct that really easily with Bates eye method. I'll pop that in the chat. Actually, do you want to pop that in, Fiona? I've got something lined up for the chat box. You can put Bates eye method in. And then Sandra asks, which is better to take, evening primrose oil or omega-3? Omega-3, I might go for flaxseed oil. That's really, really good. Flaxseed and hemp seed are very good. I might use evening primrose oil specifically if a woman has heavy periods. It can be very useful for. So it's rich in certain essential fatty acids. So there are specifics that we can go for. Sorry, EPA is evening primrose oil. It is EFA, is it? That's right. No, that's essential fatty acids. DHA, it's one of them that it's really rich in, and that is good for regulating periods. So we sometimes combine seed oils to help balance hormones as well. One last thing that I did want to say, just because you did write it down, Fiona, so we wouldn't talk about six things, was, how did you phrase it? You phrased it really nicely. We don't need to talk too much about it.
No, I had to say no.
Letting go and saying no. Because I do think there's such great lessons at menopause that there is. I just wanted to bring that in because it's not always about supplements, it's not always about a lifestyle change. It can be a conscious change about how we are and who we are in life. There's tremendous opportunity inside menopause, which is really wonderful. So I just want to do a little screen share. To tell you a bit about the natural menopause course, which let me just check I have got that in the right place. And
So we're starting in 2 weeks. So we've run the course now. This will be the fourth time that we've run the course, and every time we enhance it a little bit and we build in latest research and new things that we've tried and tested in the interim period. And this year, this will be the last one of this year. And yeah, so we would love it if you would like to join us. It's a fantastic community, and after the course, we invite you to join our menopause support group as well. So we really are trying to build a community of women who are often, it's hard to find someone like-minded who wants to who has a similar approach to health. And I think it's really interesting pulling together these women from all over the world, and we've really created something pretty special. So.
And that's actually one of the most, for me, rewarding feedbacks is when someone says, it's so good to be in the company of like-minded women sharing and learning together. So the course itself is 6 live group coaching webinars. Each week you get a weekly recorded webinar to watch in your own time, plus a weekly workbook and self-care exercises. So the live sessions are about discussing how we're moving through that rather than us delivering the information all over again. And we found that works really well, and we certainly get even better feedback with this approach. So, we're very much, as you've already heard, into proven, simple and effective health protocols, and also not costing the earth. That's something Fiona's shared, things which are absolutely free. I've shared things which are very low cost and absolutely essential. So we include some homeopathic remedies in the price. And we give discount codes for the nutritional supplements that we have, as it says here, very carefully curated. It is a constant piece of work to look at all the nutritional supplements are out there. So what you get from us is our hard work on your behalf, because I can be, I can open my Instagram and have several people saying, would I recommend this supplement? Would I work with this supplement? That happens to me on a weekly basis easily. And I have to go and look at it, read the label and say, no, I don't like this thing that you've put into it. We're going to stick with what we've spent a long time researching. So we have a WhatsApp group throughout the course for daily support and community, and that goes on beyond the course it's really for another three or 4.5 months beyond the course. And what we really work towards is for you to create your own individual plan, so that you have something which is bespoke to you for your menopause, based on the questionnaires that we use throughout the course, at the beginning and the end, so that you can get a really great idea of how it is for you and the kind of things that you want. So these are the kind of things that women feedback, and I just wanted to focus on a couple of things. I really learned to hear my inner voice to heal. Thank you. Caroline and Fiona have curated a treasure chest of evidence and resources to help us better understand the menopause as a process and to embrace it using natural solutions, including homeopathy, nutrition, and simple everyday practices. So 40 to 90% improvement in menopause symptoms is what we've seen when women do the course, and that's only in that 6 weeks. So to see a 90% improvement in certain symptoms in 6 weeks is really fantastic.
Yeah. I have to say, I bumped into somebody who did the course with us last year and this week, and she looked absolutely transformed. She had lost loads of weight, her energy was back, her sex life was kicking in. She was looking absolutely fantastic. She was mid-menopause transition, and it had actually taken some,
Fantastic.
even though she'd had really good results during the course, it'd taken time for that to embed in the practices, the lifestyle stuff, the lifestyle supports that we recommend. It takes a bit of time to bed in, and then the results just keep unfolding as well. It's not that you do your
Yeah,
6 weeks and then it's done. It's that we're giving you a roadmap for you to take forwards, adjust to your needs, but it's a roadmap of how to be well. So yeah, it was
yeah.
really, really great to see. I wonder if we should do some research checking in with everybody 6 months later and a year's later as well from the course.
Yeah, yes, that'd be great, actually. I mean, that's what we have created from the course is a menopause membership group as well. And that, so that's an idea of ongoing support beyond the course. But the course really is for women who are in menopause. We have women who are post-menopause and still have symptoms. We have women who've got questions around HRT. They might be on HRT and want to come off, or they're taking HRT and want to optimize their health. We get quite a lot of women who've had surgical or chemical menopause, and we get a lot of health practitioners who want to support women in their practices. So we're starting. Oh, why have I? So I've saved this. I did save this earlier. I'm going to flip off that because it's actually starting on the 14th of October. Um, I wonder if I've shared the wrong version. I'm going to stop that share. Fiona, you take over and I'll just see if I can
So it starts on the
find the.
15th of October. It's on a Tuesday,
Yeah,
7 p.m. So we're sticking to the time slot we're at now. And what
yeah.
we do is we send you out a video to watch in your own time, take notes on, see any questions you've got. Then we have a live session where we really bed in what was happening in that video. And in that, we do some group work. We also, so when the course begins, you receive in the post a parcel, which includes your homeopathic remedies to take throughout the course. And they follow a really lovely flow because we know from our years in
There we go.
practice what women need, and we know that one of the first things that everyone needs is a liver cleanse. So we start everybody off on a liver cleanse, a mineral balance, and then we move through different remedies as we go through the 6-week course. And at the same time, as Caroline mentioned, the supplements that we have spent so long working on, we bring in the supplements as well. And every week we're checking in about how the new remedies are working, how people are feeling, what sort of responses people are getting as well. So it's really quite a supported space. And then we have a WhatsApp group where we're always available and we answer any questions. And there's just fantastic sort of ideas come in from other people as well. So it's really a sort of space where, yeah, we're there, but there's a lot of input from the women on the group because people have really amazing, valuable inputs. There's always a great group of women. Yeah, so we cover a lot in the course. We flow through a specific structure. As we give detox remedies, we talk to you about detox, and people start putting the detox procedures into the detox protocols into their life. We share protocols that are very simple, low cost, and again, check in with everybody about how they're getting on with those, because it really does need a bit of motivation for us all to get around to doing these things that have perhaps been on our list for a long time. So the type of things we cover in the course are starting with, we do really some understanding around what's actually happening in our bodies at menopause, because there is so much misinformation out there, and we have really looked at the latest science around about this, and I think we have some really interesting insights to share around what is actually happening in menopause. And with that understanding, it's so much easier to take action and to know what you need to do. Then we work through detox. We bring in practical advice around eating, and there are no restrictive diets, but many women talk about weight loss, particularly around the middle, and we know how important it is to be not only feeling your best at menopause, but looking your best. We work a lot into sleep and how to then enhance energy and promote vitality during the day. And then we also look at those kind of big menopause symptoms, liver and kidney, what's happening with our bones, joint flexibility is something that can come up, and how to keep your hair looking good, your skin, your libido, because it isn't just about ticking medical health boxes at menopause. It's really about feeling your meno best, as one of our things, feel your meno best. And then we come into making the individual plan. And we do also talk about other therapies, other supports, lifestyle advice. So it's quite a broad-based course which really looks at lots of different ways to support our health naturally.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say to Rifat, who I think's got to go, that yes, we will share this afterwards, so you'll be able to have a look through and then listen again if you didn't catch all of it, and if you're listening on catch up, put a little comment down below because that really helps us. And yeah, if you've got any questions, obviously we're here to answer them. And I just wanted to say, I've put it in the chat box, but I'll reiterate it in the shares that we've got a special discount code for tonight's talk. So it is simply, if you've got the link to the course, it's big 650. So £50 discount off the price of the course. And let me just stop the little screen share there. And yeah, so any questions, just give us a shout. I'm happy to have a chat about the course. As we said, it's starting in a couple of weeks' time. And all the sessions do get recorded, so you're able to listen to the live sessions again, as well as obviously the pre-recorded videos. So anything else you want to add, Fiona?
No, I think we covered most things on the course. Yeah, it's really
Excellent. Let's just see, there's one more question. Thank you so much, ladies. Thanks, Jess. And yeah, we will be back again, I'm sure. So look out for more talks with us, and come and say hi if you'd like to join us on the course. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Bye
Bye.
for now. Bye.